So a lot of you may be familiar with the very distinctive Jones loop bar, but probably a whole lot of you haven't had a chance to ride an actual Jones bike. Well, you guys are in luck. In this video, I'm going to review the complete short wheelbase bike by Jones Bike. Find out what I like and dislike about it in this video. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, and if you're new to the channel, if you love things like gravel bikes, touring bikes, the supple life, then you have found your people. Consider subscribing. And this video, like all the videos on this channel, are free to watch, but not always free to produce. So if you appreciate these videos, consider supporting the channel via the PayPal link, the Patreon link, or by buying a supple t-shirt. So Jeff Jones has been in the bike industry for a long time, and many of you guys may be familiar with his Jones bars. I know that they were OEM on some Surly bikes for a while, and that's a pretty good entry point into thinking of Jeff Jones. But until recently, if you wanted to ride a Jones bike and have the whole Jones bike and bar experience, you've had to spend a lot of money. Until this year, Jeff Jones has finally offered a complete bike to bring his unique ideas on bike design to the masses. This one in particular is the short wheelbase model, and just as the name suggests, it has a short wheelbase. The frame and fork is a 4130 chromoly steel, and the fork has all the braze-ons to run either 3-pack mounts or lowriders. It's through axle, front and rear, and this bike, as being a plus bike, is built around the 27.5 by 3-inch tire. It ships stock with the Maxxis Chronicles, which I swapped out for these Terravale Coronados, but I'll get into that a little bit more in the video. The rims are pretty unique. They're 50 millimeters wide, and they really maximize kind of the plus size tire to give it the most amount of float. The bike, as you would expect, is outfitted with the Jones loop bar, set up specifically with the way Jeff Jones intended them to be used. Some people tend to put the brake levers further back on the bars, but they're actually meant to be fairly choked up. You also notice that the bike has a super short stem, again, how he intended the bars to be used, a little bit more upright position. In terms of components, there's nothing overly sexy in the build. They're all pretty functional, relatively inexpensive, but they'll get the job done. So Tektro brake levers, Shimano Dior shifter, Shimano Dior rear derailleur, a no-name crankset in the front with a 32-tooth chain ring, and in the back you have an 11 to 42 Sun Race cassette. So nothing blingy, but the parts have been chosen for their just kind of reliability. And I think also to offer this bike at a pretty reasonable price point, something that'll compete with the complete builds by Surly. The wheels are tubeless ready. They're taped for a tubeless conversion, although the Maxxis Chronicles spec'd with the bike are not. And this is done primarily to cut down on costs. So the total weight of the bike, no pedals, no cages, with the Maxxis Chronicles came out to about 33 pounds on our scales. So a little bit on the portly side, but I'm going to put a big asterisk and we'll return to this point later on. Right, so enough of that stuff. How does this bike ride? So one thing I noticed immediately is how upright you are on this bike, and that's actually by design. It's really intended to put you in a really upright position, almost like you're riding a cruiser. Granted, a cruiser for the apocalypse. One thing that really surprised me about the bike is just the handling, both the front and the rear. The front was surprisingly nimble, surprisingly quick steering for a bike with such big tires. And even though I'm riding a small frame, I wasn't getting any toe overlap, which is pretty unique. I don't think I've ever ridden a small mountain bike frame and have not gotten pedal overlap of some sort. This same quickness carries on to the rear. The rear end is a short wheelbase, so it's really darty and jumpy, and it accelerates really quickly to get you up over little hills and obstacles. And this is what blew my mind. So this bike has big tires and weighs 33 pounds, but manages to be so nimble and playful on the trail. It was really something I wasn't expecting, especially when I picked up the bike. And I'm not quite sure exactly all the things that are going on with the frame geometry that makes this happen, but trust me, it's one of the more playful big tire bikes out there that I've ridden. That said, the weight does come into a factor on long extended climbs. There's really no two ways about it. It's kind of a heavy bike right out of the box, and I really felt it when I was going on long extended climbs, especially steep ones. But anywhere where you're grinding up the hill, the bike has its own kind of gravity to it. So I have been looking at ways to lighten up the bike You know, a quick swap of the tires from the Maxes to these Terravale Coronados dropped about half a pound. And if I got rid of the tubes and went tubeless, that would be another half a pound. So there's a pound right there. I didn't cut the seat tube, so you could lose some more weight there. Maybe swap out the handlebars to either the carbon or the tie version. So there is opportunity to shed some weight on the bike. So what are the things I like and dislike about this bike? The first huge like is the handling. It is so much fun, and it's not like, it's like no other mountain bike I've ever really tried. Granted, I don't have that much experience with mountain biking. I feel like this small actually fit me as a small bike. There wasn't any compromise in the front end steering. I wasn't getting any toe overlap. I love the higher up position, because as I would go down steeps, I didn't feel like I was going to pitch over the bars. And honestly, this bike is just a blast to ride. Another big like is the versatility. Yes, you can use it as a mountain bike. I've actually been enjoying it as a cruisy commuter bike for the apocalypse with my fishing gear, going down to the river with it. You could take it road touring. It does have the eyelets for front and rear racks, but I would definitely probably swap out the tires for something a little bit lighter for any kind of extended road touring. Another thing I really like is the Jones handlebars. I had a Surly Ogre in the past and put Jones handlebars on it, but I set it up incorrectly and I didn't really like it on that bike with that geometry. But on an actual Jones bike, the bars make more sense. You do get a sense of what the multiple positions are, and it just adds to the overall enjoyment of the bike. And another big like is the cost. It used to be that the only way to get on a Jones bike would be to get a custom frame, and now you can get a complete build for the same price as a built-to-order frame, bringing the Jones bike experience to the masses at only 1,800 bucks. So those are the likes. What are the things I don't like? The big dislike is the weight. As much as I love the handling of the bike, I do feel like it would be much improved if it could shed some pounds. And I'm really trying to scratch my head, trying to figure out the ways to drop the weight in the most economical way possible. So playing around with different tires, going tubeless, maybe a different seat post or handlebars. You can make it lighter, but there is going to be a bit of a financial investment on your part, which might counteract its affordability. And honestly, that is the only dislike. I'm actually contemplating buying this bike. I don't do this very often. There's probably only 2 bikes I've considered buying this entire year of bike reviews, and that's the Velo Orange and the Jones bike. For me, the Jones bike is the first mountain bike I really felt comfortable on. I feel like it fits me, it's got that nimbleness. And honestly, I have no aspirations to go on super technical or trails where I need full suspension. So this is probably all the mountain bike I would ever want or need. It also makes a bruiser of a commuter in town. This bike's also really made me rethink the Jones bar. Like I alluded to, I had a Jones bar in the past and put it on an Ogre and didn't really like it there. But now, having used the bar on this bike and understanding how it's supposed to be set up, I bought another set of handlebars and I put it on my Mariachi. And I'm going to do a separate video on trying to set up another bike like a Jones bike, trying to match that fit and feel, and how close can you actually get with just a handlebar. If you've been itching to get a Jones bike, there is now an affordable option. In talking to Jeff Jones, he said that this bike is about is 100% a Jones bike ride, but at a much lower price point. You do pay in the weight, obviously. So I honestly really like this bike. I think if you're looking for a rigid mountain bike and don't plan to do some super extreme trails, then this is a lot of bike. You get a lot of suspension and traction from those big tires. You could also use it for commuting. Road touring, I'm kind of definitely not with those tires. But it is a good all-around bike. I personally probably wouldn't use it for a gravel event because of the weight. Maybe if I could figure out a way to drop about like 5 pounds from the bike, but then it would get really expensive at that point. So yeah, Jones bike, short wheelbase, complete, 2 thumbs up. 5 supple stars. I guess this would be 5 supple stars. So if you guys have any questions about the Jones bike, leave those in the comments below. Are there any other Jones bike riders out there? Do you have the space frame or his other diamond frames? I'm actually curious about what those bikes weigh. So if you have a custom Jones, and know the weight, leave those in the comments below. I'd love to kind of compare, you know, what the differences are between this complete and the custom ones. And again, if you like these videos, if you appreciate these bike reviews, which are unpaid, I made $0 from this review, then consider supporting the channel via the PayPal link, the Patreon link, or by buying a Supple t-shirt. And as always, keep the supple side down.